One of the places that predators can be lurking is in your apartment. Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones. I'm a licensed therapist. And I did a video a little while ago, maybe about a year or so ago, and then I reposted it talking about, um, places where predators can be hiding. And I got this response: apartment maintenance people. And I wanted to do a separate video on this because I do feel like this is something that is more common than not, where you have people with questionable backgrounds and questionable intentions that have access to your private living space. Essentially, they have keys. A lot of places now have cameras so they can monitor and surveil who comes and goes and things like that. And they have access to all your personal, a lot of your personal data, and I won't say all of it, even through just the application. And while they may not have done the application themselves, a lot of them certainly have access to the office managers and to their offices to come and go. And there are people that are allowed to be hired, and even with questionable backgrounds, that are maintenance people that have access to you, your children, your pets, your personal belongings. There's actually a show that I was watching a little while ago, and this may be a little bit different, but I feel like it had like some scenarios in there. It did where like people were going in the apartments and stuff. It's called frogging, and that show scared the bejesus out of me. But frogging is where people access your home and they sort of hide in your home. And I think there might have been a maintenance person up there, but don't quote me on that. But there's certainly been times when people can come into your apartment unauthorized. They may flirt or be inappropriate with you. There's also countless news stories where maintenance men have done things with stuffed animals, urinated or used the bathroom in places that are highly inappropriate, sexually gratified themselves in ways that were inappropriate, stealing panties or other undergarments and things like that. There's actually a movie, now that I think about it, probably way ahead of its time, with one of the Baldwin brothers and Sharon Stone. It was called Sliver. And basically, the premise of the movie was that he owned an apartment complex, um, but he watched, he was able to kind of go in and out, and he watched everyone in their part. Like there was hidden cameras, if I recall correctly, placed in all of their apartments. And he just, he was basically a creepy guy. That was all he would do, is just watch people. He was, in trigger warning, he was watching children being molested, and people being abused and all this other kind of stuff in this apartment building. And I'm telling you, the movies from the 90s, man, they got it down pat. Every scenario you can imagine. I feel like those psychological thrillers from the 90s really have it. So if you're a younger person, please go watch, psychological thrillers from the 90s. They will teach you a lot about, protection and life lessons and things like that. Of course, when I say younger person, I mean, someone in their 20s or 30s. But, that's basically the premise of that. But, being watched, being encroached upon, people doing things, entering your space, there can certainly be a number of predatory people that do that. The other thing, too, with apartment maintenance, um, I I don't recommend moving into a place where it has undocumented workers. And I know that's going to sound bad, but trust me, where I'm going with this. I think all people should be employed, but what I found when you move into a place with undocumented workers, meaning that they pay their workers a low wage and often under the table and try to keep them off the books so that they don't have much. There's usually a lot less discretion with who they hire. Usually that means that the managers don't want to pay a lot of money, so they probably don't keep up the apartment units that well, but they also don't vet and necessarily screen their people because they're trying to keep costs low. So they may charge you an arm and a leg to live there, but they're not going to pay people as much as they should and do everything legitimately on the up and up. And there's quite a bit of that here in California that I've personally encountered, and so I don't do it anymore. But I always try to make sure that everybody is, where they need to be and hired like they're supposed to be, because I am very neurotic when it comes to safety. I can't say that that's going to rule out everything because it doesn't. But I definitely think there are certain things that you do need to look out for to make sure that where you live isn't cutting corners, isn't hiring just anybody. If you can, I understand it. Not everybody's in a position for that, but those are just some of my concerns. Hope that helps. Thanks so much for putting.